The story of Sergey Brin does not begin in a place of opportunity or abundance. It begins in uncertainty, restriction, and a quiet determination that would later reshape the entire digital world. Imagine being born in a country where your potential is limited not by your abilities, but by circumstances you cannot control. That was the reality for Sergey Brin in 1970s Moscow, during a time when opportunities were scarce and discrimination was a daily barrier for Jewish families. His father, a talented mathematician, faced systemic obstacles that prevented him from fully pursuing his career. For a family that valued education and intellectual freedom, this environment was suffocating. So they made a decision that would change everything. When Sergey was just 6 years old, his family left the Soviet Union behind and immigrated to the United States. Think about that moment for a second. A young child, barely beginning to understand the world, suddenly placed into a completely new environment, new language, new culture, new expectations. For many, such a drastic change can be overwhelming, but for Sergey Brin, it became the foundation of his future success. The move didn't just give him freedom, it gave him access to possibility. Growing up in Maryland, Sergey was not your typical child. There was something different about the way he approached the world. While other kids were focused on games and everyday routines, Sergey was deeply curious about how things worked. Numbers fascinated him, patterns intrigued him. He wasn't just learning, he was exploring. This curiosity was nurtured by his family, especially his father, who encouraged logical thinking and problem solving. It was an environment that didn't just allow intelligence to grow, it accelerated it. By the time Sergey reached his teenage years, it was already clear that he was operating at a different level. He excelled academically and developed a strong interest in mathematics and computer science. This passion led him to the University of Maryland, where he graduated with honors at the age of 19. That alone is impressive, but what's more important is what it represents: focus, discipline, and a relentless drive to learn. However, as remarkable as his academic achievements were, they were only the beginning of something much bigger. Everything truly began to take shape when Sergey enrolled at Stanford University for his PhD. Stanford wasn't just another university, it was a breeding ground for innovation, a place where ideas could transform into world-changing companies. And it was here that Sergey met someone who would become one of the most important figures in his life, Larry Page. Interestingly, their first interactions were not exactly smooth. In fact, they disagreed on many things. They debated, challenged each other's ideas, and often found themselves in intellectual conflict. But sometimes the strongest partnerships are built not on immediate agreement, but on shared intensity. Beneath their disagreements was a common curiosity about the internet and its untapped potential. Both of Sergey and Larry were fascinated by one central question: how could the vast and chaotic information on the internet be organized in a meaningful way? At that time, search engines were far from perfect. Results were often irrelevant, cluttered, and easy to manipulate. The internet was growing rapidly, but finding accurate information felt like searching for a needle in a haystack. Instead of accepting this as the norm, Sergey and Larry saw it as a problem waiting to be solved. Their approach was radically different. Instead of simply counting how many times a keyword appeared on a page, they developed a system that evaluated the importance of a web page based on how many other pages linked to it. This idea became the foundation of what would later be known as PageRank. What made this concept powerful was its simplicity and effectiveness. It mirrored how humans determine credibility by looking at references and connections. A page linked by many others was likely more valuable. This insight transformed their project from an academic experiment into something revolutionary. Initially, they called their search engine Backrub, a name that, in hindsight, feels almost humorous given what it would become, but the results were undeniable. Their system produced more accurate and relevant search results than anything else available at the time. As word spread around Stanford, more people began using their search engine. It wasn't just better, it was noticeably better. Soon, the project began to outgrow its academic roots. Then came a pivotal moment that every entrepreneur dreams of. Someone believed in their idea enough to invest in it. An early investor wrote them a check for $100,000. The remarkable part, the company didn't even officially exist yet. That level of belief speaks volumes about the potential others saw in their work. In 1998, Sergey Brin and Larry Page officially founded Google, not in a corporate office or a high-rise building, but in a simple garage. It's a setting that has become iconic in startup culture, symbolizing humble beginnings and limitless ambition. At this stage, Google was not driven by profits. It was driven by a mission to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. This focus on purpose rather than immediate financial gain set Google apart from its competitors. One of the most significant decisions they made was to prioritize user experience. While other search engines cluttered their pages with advertisements, Google kept its interface clean and simple. It loaded quickly, delivered relevant results, and respected the user's time. This approach built trust, and trust led to loyalty. People didn't just use Google, they relied on it. As the number of users grew, so did the company's influence. The growth was nothing short of explosive. From a small research project, Google evolved into a global phenomenon. By 2004, the company went public, marking a major milestone in its journey. Practically overnight, Sergey Brin and Larry Page became billionaires. But the story doesn't end there, because Google was never meant to be just a search engine. Under their leadership, Google expanded into multiple areas of technology. It acquired platforms like YouTube, developed the Android operating system, introduced Google Maps, and invested heavily in artificial intelligence. Each of these innovations further solidified Google's position as a dominant force in the tech world. Eventually, the company restructured itself under a parent organization called Alphabet Inc., allowing it to explore even more ambitious projects. What truly sets Sergey Brin apart is not just his success, but his mindset. He has always been willing to question assumptions and challenge conventional thinking. While others focused on short-term gains, he focused on long-term impact. While others followed established paths, he created new ones. This ability to think differently is what allowed him to see opportunities where others saw obstacles. It is also important to recognize the role his immigrant background played in shaping his perspective. Coming from a place of limitation, he developed a deep appreciation for freedom and opportunity. This experience instilled in him a sense of resilience and adaptability. Instead of being discouraged by challenges, he embraced them as part of the journey. In many ways, his early life experiences became his greatest advantage. However, success did not come without risks. Sergey and Larry made bold decisions, including stepping away from their PhD programs to focus on Google. They entered a competitive industry with no guarantee of success. At any point, their venture could have failed. This is an important reminder that behind every success story lies uncertainty and risk. What separates those who succeed is their willingness to take those risks and persist despite the odds. There are valuable lessons to be learned from Sergey Brin's story. First, your starting point does not determine your destination. He began as a young immigrant with no guarantees, yet he went on to build one of the most influential companies in the world. Second, curiosity is a powerful driver of innovation. His desire to understand and improve systems led to groundbreaking ideas. Third, the right partnerships can amplify success. Without Larry Page, Google might not have become what it is today. And finally, thinking differently is often the key to standing out in a crowded world. As you reflect on this story, consider the impact of Google on your own life. Every time you search for information, navigate using maps, or watch a video online, you are interacting with a system that Sergey Brin helped create. What started as a simple idea in a university setting has become an essential part of daily life for billions of people. And that brings us to a powerful realization. Behind every major innovation is a story of persistence, curiosity, and bold decision-making. Sergey Brin's journey is not just about building a company, it's about redefining what is possible. It's about taking an idea and pushing it beyond its limits until it transforms the world. If this story inspired you, don't stop here. Take a moment to think about your own goals and ambitions. What ideas are you holding on to? What risks are you afraid to take? Sometimes the difference between success and regret is the decision to act.